Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandham at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
Another jaunt back in history takes us back to February of 2021 when we looked at the greatest NFL players that wore jersey number 9, and we have a great list of great significant players that we want to share with you in an effort to preserve the professional football history. So enjoy.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We're going to talk about the number 9s today. Just a couple of Hall of Famers. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has told us that Sonny Jurgensen and Steve Owen are our number 9s that have made it into the Hall of Fame. And let's talk a little bit about them. Let's start off with Steve Owen. He was born on April 28th, 1898, and was an outstanding offensive lineman at Phillips University. He spent a total of 30 seasons in the NFL as both a player and a head coach, and he was a great head coach. As a player, he was a defensive stud in the league during the 1920s, and Steve played for the Kansas City Blues and Cowboys, the Kansas City Cowboys in 1924, which was a traveling team before he landed on the Cleveland Bulldogs roster late in 1925. The Bulldogs sold his rights to the New York Giants for $500 cash, and he played in New York for 7 seasons. In 1920, he became the team's player coach, and then took over as the only coach, having the head coach title in 1931. The Pro Football Hall of Fame claims under his tutelage, the Giants played in 8 of their first 14 championship games in the National Football League. The team's victory in the 1934 Sneakers game is well documented. He coached the Giants to another title in 1938. He originated the umbrella defense. The secondary was likened to an umbrella with 4 deep defensive backs representing the umbrella spokes. The Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrined him in 1966. So he was a great player and a great coach, and he wore the number 9 when he was a player. The other one they put in is Sonny Jurgensen. He was born August 23rd, 1934. Sonny was a former quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. The Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrined this fantastic quarterback in the class of 1983. Sonny attended Duke University, where in his first season playing for the Blue Devils, he had a bigger impact as a DB than he did a QB, registering a total of 5 interceptions. Years later, when he went on to start a quarterback, he eventually was drafted in the NFL by the Eagles as a backup in 1960 behind Norm Van Brocklin, and Sonny Jurgensen won his only NFL championship in that year. The Pro Football Reference says that he has, as a starter, a record of 69, 71, and 7, and completed 57.1 of his passes, and he had a total of 32,224 yards. That's not too bad for a quarterback in that era. He had 255 touchdowns and 189 interceptions. That is a remarkable, great feat for a quarterback in that era. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and in the Hall of Fame, as we said. So definitely those two gentlemen, Steve Owen, Sonny Jurgensen, they are in our top 10 number 9s of all time in the NFL. Let's talk about some more players. Here is a current player. We may have seen him play his last game, but we're not sure yet. But Drew Brees. Drew wore the number 9 from 2001 all the way to this past year, and he is quite the record himself. He is originally drafted by the San Diego Chargers. He came out of Purdue, and he is just a phenomenal record. Quarterback record 172 and 114 and 0 ties. 67.7% completion. He's thrown for 80,358 yards so far, and he's 571 touchdowns to 243 interceptions. Remarkable quarterback rating. He won a Super Bowl. He was an All-Pro, and he's been a Pro Bowl player 13 times in his career. So just a phenomenal quarterback, and he has many records in the NFL, as we know. Great quarterback in Drew Brees. Definitely under consideration. I think we can probably pencil him as our top 10 to go with Jurgensen and Owen. Another quarterback still playing at a high level is Matthew Stafford, and we've seen some news about him lately. He was originally drafted by the Detroit Lions, came out of Georgia, it was his college, and so far we've only seen him in a Lions uniform, but we know that there was just that big blockbuster trade where Stafford was traded from the Lions to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Goff. So that should be interesting. He will be out on the West Coast playing now. But so far as a Lion, he's got a record of 74, 90, and 1, 62.6% of completion of his passes, just over 45,000 yards, and he has 282 touchdowns to 144 interceptions, so almost a 2-to-1 ratio for Mr. Matthew Stafford. So we'll put him into consideration for our top 10. Another great quarterback that played from 1995 through 2007 wearing the number 9 is Steve Mcnair. Steve Mcnair was a great quarterback out of Alcorn State, and he was drafted by the Houston Oilers, who eventually turned into the Tennessee Oilers and the Tennessee Titans. Played there for many years, and then he, at the end of his career, he played for the Baltimore Ravens for a couple seasons. But Steve Mcnair, what a quarterback he was. He had a record of 91 and 62 as a starter. 60.1% passes were completed. Threw for 31,304 yards, 174 touchdowns, 119 interceptions. What can you say about he had all the intangibles and just a well-rounded quarterback. He was the league MVP one year and made it to 3 Pro Bowls. Steve Mcnair definitely under consideration for our top 10 number 9s of the NFL of all time. Then we have another one which you may know lately as a commentator, and a very good commentator, but Tony Romo. Tony Romo played for Eastern Illinois, and he was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. He played his entire career there from 2004 to 2016. Had some injuries along the way, but pretty much a solid quarterback for the Cowboys. His record as a starter was 78 and 49 and 0 ties. Threw for 34,183 yards, 248 touchdowns, 117 interceptions for Mr. Tony Romo. Great quarterback there. Never got to that big game. Never was an MVP of the league, but he did make 4 Pro Bowls and a very solid and serviceable quarterback, and definitely one we will consider for our list in the top 10 to add. Another good quarterback that we had that's played recently, and he's been since retired, is Carson Palmer. And Carson Palmer wore the number 9 from 2004 through 2010, and he wore that number for those years with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's who drafted Carson Palmer out of USC. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, and as we said, he played for the Bengals for about 6-7 years, played for the Oakland Raiders for a couple seasons, and then 5 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals. Very good quarterback. His overall record, 92, 88, and 1, 62.5% on his completion rate. Threw for 46,247 yards, 294 touchdowns, 187 interceptions. Another one to consider for our top number 9s of all time in the NFL. We also had another quarterback, Tommy Kramer. And Tommy Kramer was, most people are going to remember him with the Minnesota Vikings, and that's where he played the majority of his career, all but 1 season. His last season as a pro, he played in 1990. He played with New Orleans. He came into the league in 1977, was taken out of Rice University as their quarterback, and he was a first rounder for the Vikings, 27th overall in the 1977 draft. He made a Pro Bowl, and he was also the NFL Player Comeback of the Year in 1986. He wore the number 9 his entire career, both with the Vikings and the Saints. 54-56 record, 55.1 completion record, just under 25,000 yards passing, 159 touchdowns, 158 interceptions. Pretty much a little bit mediocre there, but definitely under consideration for our top 9s of the NFL. Another quarterback, and we remember him from the Super Bowl shuffle teams, the 1985 Bears. Jim Mcmahon wore number 9 his entire career, and he had quite a career. Chicago Bears is where we most remember him from, but he played with the San Diego Chargers, the Philadelphia Eagles, Minnesota Vikings for a cup of coffee, the Cardinals, and the Green Bay Packers for his last 2 seasons. Didn't play much there, but overall he had a record of 67-30, great record. Threw for just over 18,000 yards, 100 touchdowns, 90 interceptions, so not the best of stats passing-wise, but he did make the Pro Bowl one year. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champ, the one with the Chargers, and I'm not sure who he won that other one with. Must be Green Bay in the 90s where he sat behind Favre. And he was the 1991 Comeback Player of the Year. So Jim McMahon under consideration for our top 10 number 9s. Then we go to, we have some kickers we'll talk about a little bit. Both of these gentlemen wore the number 9 for 17 years, so we got to make sure we mention them. But Shane Lechler and Norm Johnson. Now, Shane Lechler, he was a kicker. He came out of the Texas A&M program, and he was drafted by the Oakland Raiders in the 5th round of the 2000 draft. And he played for the Raiders most of his career. Sorry, he wasn't a kicker. He was a punter. And over his career, 18 seasons altogether, he had a 47.6 average yards per punt, and only had not very many blocks, 5 blocks in his career, and 47.6 is nothing to sneeze at, so that's a very good punting average for Shane Lechler. We'll definitely keep him under consideration. And we talked about Norm Johnson. He was a kicker. I'm pretty sure I know that was for a fact. He also wore number 9 his entire career. Played with the Seattle Seahawks is where he came in the league. Played with the Falcons for a bunch of years, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers. So 9 with Seattle, 4 with Atlanta, 4 with the Steelers, 1 year and a cup of coffee with the Philadelphia Eagles. And he had just a brilliant career too. He was 638 of 644 extra point attempts. His field goals, he was 366 of 477. His longest was 54 yards, and he just scored gobs of points during his career for all those teams. So definitely Mr. Norm Johnson, one of our great number 9s of all time. Not sure if he's going to make our list here. Another person that wore the number 9 for a great long time and used his leg is Robbie Gold, who was a kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, is where he was drafted, but we know him mostly from playing with the Bears because he played there a tremendous time. He really didn't play for the 49ers at all. I think they just drafted him. And played for the Giants for the year. San Francisco 49ers for the last 4 seasons. He's still kicking away at it. And he has just been some scoring machine himself. An extra points, 531 of 545. In his field goals, he's made 400 of 462. And again, just scored all kinds of points. His longest field goal ever made, 58 yards. That's something to say there, too. Just a tremendous player. Made the All-Pro once, and he made it to 1 Pro Bowl. So good for Robbie Gold. Another one to consider. Some other quarterbacks, David Gerard, who we know and remember him mostly from Jacksonville. That's where he spent that's where he spent all of his career. He was a starter there for a while. As a quarterback, he won 39 games and lost 37. Threw for just over 16,000 yards. Had 89 touchdowns, 54 interceptions. David Gerard, one of our number 9s. And we had another great one. Rodney Pete wore the number 9 for 15 seasons. Not not his entire career. He had a couple different teams he wore for 16, but he played for, of course, the Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington, Oakland, Carolina. Just a tremendous player, a great athlete. As a quarterback starter, he was 45 and 42. He had completed 57.3% of his passes, threw for just over 16,300 yards. Had 76 touchdowns, 92 interceptions. Not a great ratio for Rodney Pete, but 15 years wearing the number 9. That's some pretty good company to be in. Just some other names, mostly kickers. Jay Fiedler, Ryan Lindell, Matt Barr. Nick Foles is a quarterback that wore the number 9 jersey. He was a Super Bowl champion, made the Pro Bowl. He wore the number 9. You can remember he had the great Philly special pass in the Super Bowl when he came in and for most of the season for Carson Wentz back in 2018, I believe that was, 2017. Getting drafted by Philadelphia, played for St. Louis, Kansas City, back with Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Chicago this past year. As a starter, he's 28 and 27, 13,753 yards passing in his career, 81 touchdowns, 43 interceptions, but won that Super Bowl as a starter and really took his team through the playoffs that year. So had a great season for Nick Foles. So that's basically our names that we go through and have for this. So as we discussed earlier, we're going to have those 2 Hall of Famers are in our top 10, Sonny Jurgensen, Steve Owen. Next on our list, in the 30 spot, well, no, not really spot, probably number 1 on our list would be Drew Brees, who's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. I would put Matt Stafford on that list of our top number 9s. Steve Mcnair, I would put on there. Tony Romo, Carson Palmer, and Tommy Kramer. Makes our 8. Jim Mcmahon for winning a Super Bowl. Not that he was a great quarterback, but he was a great personality and he was substantial in their trek to do that. And boy, we have a tough one for our last one. I'm going to put Robbie Gold on that list of our top number 9s of all time and round out our top 10 for the top NFL number 9s of all time. So we hope you're enjoying this series. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we hope you come back tomorrow because we're going to start off March with a big bang here. We're going to bring in some big guns here. Warren Rogan's going to join us to go over the greatest number 10s of all time in the NFL, and Warren's got some really interesting stories and some great perspective on the number 10s. And shortly after that, in the next few days after that, we are going to have Warren on again to talk number 11s because he's just on a roll and we couldn't stop but have him recording because he is just an excellent speaker, has an excellent podcast, just like all of our other guests are very interesting. So we hope you are enjoying all these as we go on. So until tomorrow, everybody, have a great Gridiron Day. Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. A special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row 1, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row 1 gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row 1 shop, check out the thousands more of unique unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorum Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.